Okay, well, should we get into it?
Sure.
Okay, so maybe just tell me a little bit about like when you moved to San Francisco and where you lived and kind of why you decided to move here.
Sure. I was living in New York, and I can tell you exactly what I moved in February 1990. I came to San Francisco, but I visited in fall of, I guess it would have been 89. Cool. And I remember I was visiting, I had a couple people I knew there, and then when I went home and looked at all the pictures I took, and I had a bunch of pictures from Muir Woods and the park and everything, and then I looked at my window, and it was the on-ramp to the BQE, and they were like handcuffing people to the crack dealers to the fence. I was like, okay, I think it's time. So yeah. That's what I did there. That's how I got there. And then I moved. I remember moving. It was February. I thought, this is so crazy. It's February, and all I need is a light jacket. I thought that was remarkable because New York was so cold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Had you always lived in New York previously?
No, I lived in New York and Chicago.
Okay.
Even colder. I kept moving. I grew up in New York, moved to Chicago, where it was really cold, then moved back to New York, cold, then San Francisco, and now LA, so I keep getting warmer and warmer.
Yeah.
It's cold.
Yeah.
I don't like cold. I know, it's so funny. Oh my gosh. Mm-hmm.
So when you moved, was like, where did you move to in the city? Like, where was the first part of the city that you lived in?
Oh, the Mission.
Okay, you moved to the Mission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, the first apartment I had was friends of my cousin, and it was 3 guys, super nice guys. They had an extra room. It was great. I was excited to move into an established household, and it was near Dolores Park. And when I got there, they had like nothing in the kitchen. Like they had like 1 bowl and 2 spoons or something. It was like these 3 guys. They just ate burritos all the time. So then I moved to 24th Street across from the BART station.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Did you like seek out the Mission specifically, or was it just kind of like it just worked out that way?
I think it just worked out that way. Although once I was there, because then I lived on 24th Street, then I lived on Dolores Street, and then I lived on Bartlett Street. So once I was in the Mission, I knew I wanted to stay in the Mission until I left, until I moved to the Sunset. But I was in the Mission for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And when I was, I guess you just kind of knew people around. Mm-hmm. So that's what, that's all, that's who I knew who had openings or were looking for places. Everybody was in the Mission,
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So there was like a community kind of there that you felt like you tapped into kind of.
Yeah, I guess, I was looking for, roommates when I met new people I was going to live with and such, and everybody was kind of in that neighborhood. It was very small towny.
Yeah, like everybody knew each other, kind of.
Kinda. Or it turned into that way, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Did you feel like there was like a lot of artists and stuff like that, or did it feel like everybody was kind of doing different things, or?
People were doing different things. There was, we were all waiting tables, but there were a lot of more musicians than artists I knew. Mm-hmm. That was just kind of because of what I was involved with, but there was, definitely.
Yeah.
It was easy. It wasn't that expensive, so it was like easy, So you could work waiting in tables in a restaurant, a few nights and have enough to pay your rent. Then you could, whatever.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't, even then it didn't seem cheap then. Now the price that it's unbelievable how cheap it would be. A whole 3-bedroom flat for $1,200, so each had $400, to pay.
Nice.
Which sounded a lot for us then, but now would be insane.
Yeah. Totally.
You want the whole flat, it was just so crazy. Yeah.
That's cool. Was there a lot of places to experience music and art in the Mission too? Did you feel like there were a lot of shows being thrown in the Mission?
Yes. Well, there were a few places. Some of them were a little bit outside the Mission. We did go far and wide, like Potrero Hill, bottom of the hill, or the Kennel Club, or the I-Beam. But the Mission was the Chameleons that I remember the most. We just went there all the time. It was just you would just go there and know you'd see people there. Or that bar that I think it's still there, Zeitgeist. They had shows. Mm-hmm. I think they have shows. I think they had shows. The Chameleons is what I remember the most from the Mission. Yeah, totally.
Where was that?
That was on Valencia and across the street from that little park. 21st? 21st?
Okay.
Yes, everything, it was very walkable. Yeah, right there.
Nice.
Yeah.
That
cool.
was
the best. Yeah. And then Radio Valencia was right there.
Right. Yeah.
Super handy. Yeah. So that was all right there.
Cool. So for like
and then there was a Kilowatt on 16th Street also. Right?
Yep. Kilowatt's still there. Yeah.
Yeah, that was there. And there were some other things on 16th, I think. I can't remember. I have a terrible memory. I think, the Chameleons is what I remember the most, because I remember going there the most, because that was the kind of bands I always remember seeing there. Local bands plus touring bands would go there, so, yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. What was like if you could describe like the general vibe of what it felt like to kind of like live in the Mission and go to shows in that era, like are there any words
I don't know. It just felt easy. It's like you just would kind of go, all right, like you didn't have to make plans. You would just be like, all right, I'm just going to go here today. And you'd run into people you knew.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to like, it was just, I don't know, maybe it was our age also, because everybody was, we were younger, so it just seemed much simpler. Like, it wasn't a big deal. You could just walk over there. Oh, this is playing today. Great. Just go in. You knew who would be there. You know who was bartending. You knew who'd be waiting tables, places. Like, all your friends were working around there. So it was just like a community kind of situation. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. I feel like it still has a little bit of that for sure.
Yeah, I think part of what's changed for me is age, right? Because I just don't do that. I don't go out like that. I used to go out so much.
Yeah.
I used to wait tables, so you go out after work, and I work nights, and now I don't do that. I work early in the day, so that's the whole difference. But so I'm assuming that there's places still where people that are younger still that they still go do stuff.
Yeah, there's definitely still a community for sure.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah. But when you visit now, does it feel really like I know like also like not living here is like makes it feel different probably, and then like being older and stuff too, and having like a different experience of it. But are there other things that you're like, whoa, that seems really different, or like?
Oh yeah, it just looks really different.
Yeah.
It's way more crowded.
Okay.
Like you I mean, we were just there, and you can't drive across the city. It's just insane. Not that I even had a car that much. I had a car. The first few years, I didn't even have a car when I was there, but just taking the bus, and it just wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
Now it was just like impossible. So way more crowded, and just so many more buildings, and they, all the new apartment buildings all look the same, and it's just way more. I mean, there's still these little pockets of little bits of, interesting, like individual things, like little stores. There's a couple stores that are still there, Adobe books and stuff, like they're, places that are hanging in. But, I don't know. Yeah. It just looks, it does have a different feel to it. Looks different, feels different.
How so, like?
Well, I just think it's the crowds and all the, it's just a different kind of people, maybe. It seems a little more, it just seems so much more laid back back then. It just seems a little more frenzied now. I don't know if it's because of the all the money and tech that's in the town now that makes it more just harder to, do things. But, things are just, it just seems more intense now.
Interesting.
It was like a quaint little town. That's how I remember it. Like it being kind of like the first time we went back there. Well, we moved in 2002, so things were starting to change already. Like we'd already had to leave an apartment and had trouble finding an apartment because everything was changing. But I remember the first time going back there, I was like, oh my God, it's so like quaint.
Yeah.
I forgot, like when you're in it, you don't realize it as much. But when I went back, that's when I saw it. Now when I go back, it kind of has little bits of that, but not really. It just seems kind of a little overwhelming almost.
Wow, interesting. Like more like city kind of.
just, it's just all those buildings that are going up everywhere, which, are needed. But it's just the traffic and everything just seems just more crowded.
Yeah, totally. Also, like, the energy, I feel like, in general, is really different now from what I remember growing up. Like, it's also hard for me, too. I feel like I have a similar thing where it's like, yeah, I was a kid, so it's like I probably was noticing different things than I would now. But I feel like just the general vibe of the place.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels, I
don't live there anymore, but when I go back, it just feels different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like, I think it's harder to be here, so that kind of contributes to this kind of, like, hectic background static that's kind of, like, anxious and, like, frustrated, and, it doesn't feel, like, calm, and...
Yeah, no, if you have to work all the time at something, and maybe it's something you don't want to be doing just to get by, that sucks everything out of you.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, do you think you would still consider moving to San Francisco if you were in your 20s now? Or do you think you would be like, like if you were like, do you think it would still seem attractive?
I don't think so. Well, I think the tech thing, I'm just so not that kind of person.
Totally.
I'm not part of that world at all. And, so I wouldn't have a place, anything there, and it just seems like it would just be so hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so expensive. One of the reasons we moved was because it was just too expensive. I mean, now LA is expensive also, but when we moved here, it wasn't as bad. So it's kind of gotten that way up here as well, but, it's just really hard.
Yeah, totally. I know.
I did like living in Brisbane.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Brisbane was cute, and you could just come into the city all the time. But yeah, we had to kind of get out of there. It was going nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of think about that too. Like, if I hadn't have grown up here, I don't know that I would think like, oh, I want to be a musician. Like, if I was like, 21, I don't know that I would be like, oh, I want to be a musician. Let me like move to San Francisco. I don't think I would be thinking that.
But do you know people that have done that?
I do. Yeah, I do. So
and people who moved to New York also. I don't know how they do it. But then again, I moved to New York. It was expensive, but I just sort of I did it somehow.
Yeah.
I guess you just sort of figure it out, maybe. If you really want to do it, you just do it.
Totally. And New York, like, I think that makes more sense to me because there's just so much there always. And there's, like, industry and everything. And it's, like, there's people always are getting famous from New York, Like, if, like, that's what you're trying to do, like, make your way in a music scene. But San Francisco, it just feels like you're going to have to pay so much money, and, like, there definitely is a scene here, and, like, there are bands that are really, really good, and, like, I know a lot of super talented people, but I don't know that I would know that from the outside. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if it's obvious that is here, if you're like, grew up in Michigan or something.
Right.
I don't know, it's interesting, but...
It's probably a whole different take on it all.
Yeah.
Coming from the outside, especially if you're coming from like a smaller town and you stand up there, you'd have such a different take, I bet.
Right. Yeah. Totally.
You're like the frog in the pot of boiling water. You just saw it changing as you were there. You don't really notice it.
Exactly. I'm like, is it just me or is it otter in here? But do you feel like before you moved to San Francisco, did you have a sense when you were living in New York, like thinking about moving, did you have a sense of like, oh, if I go there, like, I think I'm going to be able to be a part of like the kind of community that I want to be? Like, was that part of the attraction? It's kind of specific.
I don't think that specifically.
Okay.
When I was in New York, like that, I was in such a couple of neighborhoods that were like, it kind of had that same feel, small town feel.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get off work at the cafe I was working at, and I'd go to a bar, and I wouldn't make a plan with anybody because I know I'd find my people there.
Yeah. And
if they weren't there, then I'd go to the next bar, So at that point in time, I don't think it's like that anymore. Maybe it is. Maybe it was an age thing again. that whole kind of thing was kind of the same for me in New York anyway. Like, I had my group, and it was bands and music-centered and, this, that, and the other. So I think I went to San Francisco because the weather, which is really a big deal to me, was for a change also, because I grew up in New York, so, it was a change. And, I don't know, there was also, New York was just falling apart at the time. It was just not a good time. It was a mess. It was bad. Saw a guy take a dump in the middle of Houston Street. I'm like, okay, I didn't need to see that. I'm done.
Yeah.
So I think it was just not a good time. I don't know, plenty of other people managed and stayed, but I was just like, I've just had enough of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I never lived in a small town at all. San Francisco was the smallest place I ever lived, so to me that felt so small, and so it was kind of an interesting change of pace.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, definitely I could see that after growing up in New York. How it would just be like, whoa. I feel like, square mileage of the city itself is just so tiny.
Right. Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. And I know that you took a lot of, you did a lot of, band photography and stuff in New York. Did you continue to do that in San Francisco, too? Was that still a big part of your life?
Yeah, definitely. I met, then it's funny, you just start meeting the musicians, right? That's how you meet people. That was who you knew, and that's what I did. And I probably did more in San Francisco than New York even. New York, I was probably just taking stuff kind of randomly for myself. I had done a bunch of it in Chicago. And, but then in San Francisco, I actually started doing it a lot more. Well, I guess I had my own darkroom in New York, so that's different. But then in San Francisco, I started working in darkrooms, so that gave me a whole other, way to be doing that. I had access.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, that was a big deal, actually. So, yeah.
Did you feel did it feel different to be taking photos here than there? You felt like you were, more part of a thing, or?
Let me think about that. I don't think so. It was kind of a similar, the thing was just, because the way I take pictures, I wasn't doing that much, it wasn't a job. I did little bits of things for people and got little bits of money, but really tiny. A little bit of stuff was for assignments, but mostly for the weekly or things like that. You know what I mean? But I just wasn't really pursuing it that much. I'm not good at that, so I didn't do that in New York either. So, what was your question again?
If you felt like it was you were more part of an artist-based sort of community in San Francisco that was supporting your art, or if that was part of the vibe.
Maybe a little bit of that, just from things like The Guardian or The Weekly. I just knew people who wrote for there, and I knew other bands that were in there, and I knew people who booked shows at clubs. So maybe a little bit. It's hard to say because I don't think it was that formal of a thing. Everybody just kind of did their thing, or they were figuring out what their thing was, Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, yeah.
I think that's kind of all my questions, honestly.
Okay,
I guess,
that's fine. That's cool.
But do you have any favorite memories? That was one question that I didn't ask. When you think back, any times that you're that was really awesome, or anything that sticks out.
Any Thinking Fellers show.
Okay.
That was my favorite band, and their shows were so fun. Really, a lot of that's what sticks in my head. And because I have pictures of a lot of these shows, that's my memory. I have memories of them, it just brings it back. So a lot of those shows were probably, but just, when I worked at the cafe at the end of it, I was living on Bartlett Street. Oh, no, that would be in the middle. That would be 96, 95, I don't know when it was. I was living on Bartlett Street, and then the Radio Valencia was around the corner. And then the Latin American opened, and everybody knew everybody, so it'd be like, oh, we'll go there. So I would like just walk around the block. Like that was my thing. And every night I go into Radio Valencia to work, and I'd see who was working there. We're like, okay, I'm not going out tonight. I can't go out tonight. We're going out so much. I gotta just go home. And then we finish the shift, close the restaurant, and go, okay, just one. Just walk over there. So I had this like little. It was such a small little space, It was so funny that sometimes that's as far as I went.
Yeah. I know. I feel like the Mission still really has that. Like, that's really how I feel sometimes. Like, there's like, sometimes I'll go for like almost 5 days without leaving my like block, like 1 block radius.
Right. See?
It's just everything I need. It's right there.
There you go. That's all you need. Then you're good.
Yeah. It's still kind of like that, I feel. But that's cool.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So the shows were like the main. Like,
I mean, maybe that's just what I remember the most.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, just hanging out, going out for brunch also, because you knew everybody who worked in restaurants, so you'd go out and hang out, or just going out to the restaurants to eat all the time. Like when I lived on 24th Street, there was a little Salvadorian place down the street. I would just go in there 2 or 3 times a day. I knew the couple that ran the place because I lived like upstairs practically, so they'd be like, "You want your usual?" That kind of thing. So it's just little things like that. Or just getting my bicycle and running to the Roxy to see a movie. Like, I would just do stuff like that all the time. Something like I would never do now. It just felt like that whole neighborhood had a lot of that. Between the Castro Theater, the Roxy, ATA, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was very fun. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it was also like so many good people, like just like all of like my parents' friends, like everyone is like so cool and interesting and like good. It was just like a good group,
Yeah,
like, really cool that you guys were all there.
It was good. It was fun. It was that was you worked in these restaurants, but it was all because it was people that you were it was just fun.
Your friends, yeah. Right.
So even if like, waiting tables, but you're with your friends,
Yeah, totally.
So it was fine. It was good.
Yeah.
I've always, in New York, actually Chicago too, every restaurant I've worked in, not every one, I get to it. Actually, when I first moved to San Francisco, I was working at another place for a little while, a few months, and it was like, it was kind of like a chore. But then once I met and got into Radio Valencia, even though they were just starting and wasn't making any money, I could just tell that it was going to be better,
Yeah.
Yeah, so the couple other places, but every city I've been in, I've been very lucky to just work in places where it's still all my really good friends.
Yeah.
Like people from New York are still my dearest friends. We waited tables together so long ago. It's that kind of a thing.
That's so cool. Also, like the trauma bonding from service industry is such a real, such a like significant and like specific connection to have with people.
I bet. We all have war stories. I still have my stress dreams are still related like that. Like yes, absolutely. We all know all the ropes there.
Totally.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I definitely think there's some of that, and we had good parties there too.
Oh, yeah?
Excellent parties, so yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've heard some of the stories about Radio Valencia, like the Christmas parties and stuff.
Right, yeah, those are pretty great.
Crazy.
Pretty fun.
Jono dancing naked.
Yeah, every time.
That's awesome.
Like we'd be like rolling our eyes like, oh, there he goes, okay. It was fun. They were pretty raucous parties, dancing on the bar and such.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was fun. Yeah.
Because everyone was kind of the same age, right? Or like a similar range.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. What are you, 28?
I'm 28. Yeah.
Yeah. That's about right. Yeah. That's about. I remember your mom's 30th birthday at the cafe. Big party. Yeah. So yeah, totally.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.